Hello, welcome to the video for my jam breakdown, January 2016, Zila. This is going to be a bonus, part 1. So, I went ahead and I broke down the game jam from January 2016 over 6 parts, and I covered most of it. And I did mention a few times some of the things that went right and wrong, but I also mentioned some of the things that I intended to put in if there was time available. So that is what these videos are going to be. I went ahead and I created this awesome design document in our handy dandy WordPad. And it's going to basically cover what we want to do. So, some of the comments back regarding gameplays were covered in this document right here. There was no lose condition. Basically, I didn't want to make a game where you could lose. I was trying something new. Like I mentioned, most of the things in this game were things I was trying out. One of them was there is no lose condition. You basically play for a set amount of time, through a set amount of waves, and then you compete for score. Well, based on what I saw and other entries and comments, it looks like people want some form of a challenge. So enemies that can kill the player is something we're going to add in. Music, it was mentioned, there should be some music. So I went ahead and created a little wave file we're going to use to add some background music. We're also going to add a ability to toggle the music on and off in the game menu. Having the ability to toggle sound on and off is going to be added into the game menu. And we're actually going to do this the wrong way, so I can show you one way to do it. We're going to have less enemy waves at the end. We have 6 waves currently, which take approximately 2.5 minutes. And that is a little bit longer considering the waves don't change. They're still all 3 floors. So we're going to drop 2 of them off at the end. And then what we're going to do is, one of the issues when someone was playing through it was they assumed the game wasn't endless, and they just simply stopped literally 10 seconds before the end of the game because they didn't know there was an end. So I thought of a good way to try to keep it in character is we're going to record a little bit of audio at the beginning that lets the player know the mall will be closing in 5 minutes. So they know that there is a set time limit. So these are the things we're going to do. They're going to be covered over various videos. I have not done anything except a little bit of research on how I want to implement these. So I'm going to go ahead and simply record these as I do them. And we're going to go from there. I don't know how many videos there will be, but this is going to be basically a learning experience on implementing them into the existing code base, as if this was doing it during the jam. Like I mentioned in the middle one here, add toggle to options for sound the wrong way. I'm going to show you a hack that I'm going to have to put in because I didn't use a sound manager, because I didn't use the design document. So we're going to go and hack in a way to adjust the sound that I wouldn't personally recommend in a production game, but will work fine for adding in a sound option later on. So let's go ahead and get started. So, enemies that can kill the player. This one's going to be a lot longer. I'm going to have to take my existing AI, modify it slightly, make a new character type, and because I did the characters the wrong way, I'm not going to be able to make everyone an enemy type. I'm just going to make one generic. Adding in music shouldn't be too hard. Adding in the sound shouldn't be too hard. Less waves at the end will be, 2 minutes if that. It's going to take longer to actually play through and test it than anything. And then the audio cue still needs to be recorded on my side, so it's going to be in another video. Let's go ahead and do the music and the audio toggles in this video, and we'll see how long that takes. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and let's add in the toggle for the options for sound. We'll do that first. So right now, instead of using a audio manager like I should be using, and we will actually be partially implementing for the music, all of the sounds are handled by the sound issuer completely. It's not handled off to the game state. It's not handled off to an audio manager. If I want to play sound, for example, when my female character gets destroyed, inside my character, I spawn a 2D sound. So that sound is not originated from where the player's at. For example, the enemy is at. It's originated in generic user interface space. So the player who's playing will always hear it. Again, something that was simply done because I had a 2-day time limit self-imposed to make the game work. Now, in here we have our volume multiplier. The volume multiplier is obviously the multiplier for the volume. A 1 is our default volume, and a 0 is going to give us no volume. What we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to edit all of our sound cues, attach a volume multiplier that we get from our game state, and then that's going to determine in real time if the sound is played or not. Well, okay, correction. It's going to determine in real time if we hear the sound or not. We're going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to do this the wrong way. We're going to still play the sound. It's just going to be either heard or not heard. This is not, again, professional, proper way of doing it. This is a way of getting the stuff done quickly. So, what we're going to need to do, and because we're going to add this to the options menu and we're going to save it, is we are going to need a game save state. Which, did I make one? I have my instance, my game mode, my game state. I did not. So, we're going to need a save game. If we open up this classes, we add a save game class. And let's name it Zilla Game Save. And we open it up. Now, this is going to be our game save. All it's going to do is hold the variables that we want saved between each instance of playing the game. Now, since we already know we're going to add music, we're going to go ahead and add in 2 variables at the same time. We're going to make them both bools, and we're going to make them really simple. Music enabled, and we're going to name this one sound enabled. Now, if you were going to do this properly, you might want to add in a music volume and a sound volume as a float. That way you can adjust them with a slider. Some of the other examples I have put up on the repo for the I want to say October and November 2015, both have examples of using sliders. Now, I know the October one does for sure because I had a week to do it, and I did it right. So, this is all we're going to need to do for the game save. It's simply going to hold 2 variables. Now, our game state, what we're going to do is, for this game, I try to use the game state as the intermediary for transferring things back and forth. So, for example, when I wanted to handle the game over, the game state handled it. Customer spawning, customer service, customer being serviced, handling customer escaping. Now, one thing you may notice in this one, compared to the previous videos, and of course I forgot to mention, I went ahead and I commented all of the code in the game up to this point. And as we go forward, we're going to comment the new code as well. So if you were to pull down the code now, you're going to find it's all commented correctly. So let's go ahead and we are going to use our interface for our game state, and we are just simply going to have game state interface, 2 functions in here, and we're simply going to handle toggling the sound and toggling the music. So add new function, we'll call this one toggle music, and we're going to go ahead and we are going to so let's add in toggle sound, and then we'll discuss this like I normally would. So there's a few ways of doing this. You can have it where it handles it completely, as in I simply call toggle sound. Toggle sound determines if the sound's on or off, and then flips it. Or you could have it where it is a bool that's passed to it, and the person that calls toggling sound or music determines if it's on or off. What's the best way? That's a darn good question. Since this is going to be accessed through the options menu, then the options menu is going to have a button, and that button is going to turn the sound on and off. I'm going to go ahead and have that button. No, because, see, here's the example. So if it's a button, the button should call toggle sound without any bool. It should just simply toggle it on or off. It's a button. But if I'm going to use a checkbox, and the state of the checkbox, either checked or unchecked, is going to determine if it's on or off, then at the end of the time saving the options, then I should toggle the sound with the bool. So which way do we want to do this? Well, let's just go ahead and do this the easy way. We're just going to use a button. I'm going to make a button that toggles the sound on and off instead of a checkbox, and we're just simply going to pass in the toggle sound function. So we've got toggle sound and toggle music. So what we need to do is we need to save this, so that way the interface updates. Now if we call toggle music and toggle sound, we are going to find our 2 new events. So we're going to go ahead and implement toggle sound first. What we're going to do here is we're going to get our game save. We're going to determine if the sound is on or off right now. We're going to then flip it and then resave the game. So that's probably the easiest thing to do. So one thing we did not do is, and this is all just iterative, in our game save we have our music and sound enabled. I'm going to go ahead and turn these on by default. That way, if there is no save game state already inside that's saved, we're going to have, when we get these variables, we're going to have a positive. We're going to have the sound turned on already and the music turned on. Because by default, I want the music turned on. So let's make this even easier. Let's see. Playing a sound, turning a sound. All it's going to do is adjust the volume. So what we need to do is we need a variable in here. And we're going to need sound volume. And we're going to need music volume. Now, since I have our design document already set up and we've determined that we're going to have sound and music options and we're going to be adding them, I'm going, as you may have noticed, and adding them basically both at the same time so I can speed things up. Now, I'm going to probably reiterate this multiple times, but because this was a game jam, the point was to get it done, so I'm simply going to treat this like the game jam and get it done. So basically, we're going to toggle the sound. What we're going to do is, we don't need to get the sound volume. We're going to set our sound volume to either 1 or 0. That's all we're doing here. We're setting it to 1 or 0 depending on if the sound's on or off. And it should be 1, 0 there, which I can't seem to put. There we go. So that's all we're going to do. We'll have those off to the side. So what we need to do now is we need to get load game from slot. This is going to allow us to load up our save game, and we're going to load up the save game we call save game at index value of 0. Now, if this returns a valid value, we're going to know that we have a previous value to load. If it returns nothing or null as it states, then we are going to have not loaded anything, which means we're going to use our default values. So let's see. Valid. I believe it's this one. Here we go. And then we'll do if. Now it's been a while since I've used a save game, and I always forget, so we're going to see if this works. And actually this was the wrong way of doing it, so let's go ahead and promote this to a variable. What we're going to do is we're going to save out our save game here into here, and then we're going to pass that into there like that. Let's go ahead and save this, and this will be our save game reference. So we've gone ahead and loaded the save game. If it exists, it goes into save game reference. If it doesn't exist, per this note, it's going to become null. So this is going to be null. We're going to check to see if this is valid, which again, not null and not pending a kill. And if it's true, then we can go ahead and we can use the existing values. If it's false, then we're going to create a new save object, put it into save game reference, and then we can use the values from there. So let's move these down here. So we're on our true. So if it's true, then we are going to get our save game reference, and we are going to get our sound volume. Oops. Always got to cast. This is a generic save game. This is a specific save game. So we're going to want to go ahead and cast. And as we cast it, there we go, we want to get our sound, which is getting our sound enabled. These I really should not have created. Let's go ahead and delete them. We'll get rid of them. We'll get them back again. Okay. And we're going to do our cleanup in our code at the same time. And maybe I'll do it between the two. Okay, so assuming we have a valid save game reference and it's a Zilla game save, this should not fail. Now you might want to put in a, oh my gosh, print string I failed message here, but we only have these options. We should not fail. I could actually probably even convert something to a pure, I don't remember. Yeah, right here, I can even do that. Convert to purecast. I always forget about this. Because we know this is not going to fail, we'll go ahead and convert this to a purecast. And we will do an if here. We'll hook this one up. I don't like having the extra nodes of execute nodes if I don't have to. So we'll do that. And then now we know, now of course the ones I just deleted, set sound volume, and here we go. So if sound is enabled in our save options, which is true, then we're going to want our sound volume to be 1. And if sound is not enabled, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set our sound to 0. Clean this up a little bit. So in theory, we should now have a valid check for toggling the sound. We have to finish this up here, but let's assume we have a save game and we have it's valid. It'll check it and it's going to set our sound volume variable to 1 or 0. So what we can then do inside of our characters is, like I said, we're going to do this the cheap and easy way, is we'll just simply get our game state, and we're going to go ahead and cast it, because we're just going to do this the cheap and easy way. The other way is to put a blueprint interface in here, tell it to, for example, is sound enabled as a function, and then have it return a boolean, and then we could do that. We could skip this cast step right here. Actually, we convert this to pure, so actually we can just skip that. And then we'll get our sound volume, and then we'll plug our sound volume into there. So now, in theory, if we clean this up a little bit more, like that, okay. What we've done now is inside of this one character, it should get the game state, cast it to our game state that's specific for our game, get the sound volume, which we've already set, and then set that as the volume multiplier. So now if we have a, let's see, game state, here we go. Now if we have a valid sound, it's going to be a 1. If we have no valid sound, it's going to be a 0, and we shouldn't hear anything out of the game. Now we still need to set our fail condition here. So in this one, we need to create a save game object. So what happened here is we do not have a save game object yet. We haven't actually saved one. This may be the first time loading the game. So, failed, not a valid object, create our save game object, create it from our Zilla game save. Now that we have an actual specific game save, we're going to go ahead and return it here. And the nice thing here is what we do is we set our game reference right here. So now our save game reference points to a brand new valid save game object. And then the nice thing here is, since we've already got it as a save game reference object, and it should be, let's find out. Can we plug that into here? Yeah, see, this is just a generic save game. So we want to cast this one as well. We'll go ahead and set this one as a pure. And then let's go ahead, and the nice thing is we can do, technically, we could copy this out, or we could just hook this into here. No, that's a success. We'd have to hook this into here like that. So here's one of those questions. Do we just move this all around and use one thing? Do we hook this stuff back up to our branch? Because technically this is going to have to hook into our branch like that. Now we got some funky looking code. Let's see if we can clean this up. So actually, let's go ahead and let's try doing this. Hooking this into here, hooking that into there. Totally messing up our sound ones. There, like that. Okay, and then this is our actual check here. Like that. And you notice we have a problem where you can't hook up the same one there. So this would be your sound enabled. Right here. And then can we hook it into here? Nope, you're going to notice now our branch can't be shared either. So everything we tried to do did not work out for the best. So we are going to have to duplicate this for the most part, unless we wanted to set another variable internally. So we'll go ahead and hook this back together. Fix our reroute node. Oops. Let's move this out of the way. Fix our reroute node like this. We'll go ahead and go back down here. Set this up like this. And somehow that's all messed up. And in here, hook that into there. Move these down so they're out of the way. There we go. So Now we should be fine. This could be cleaned up a little bit, but this is our toggle sound event, which I actually just realized is completely named wrong and not even toggling the sound. This is technically going to set our sound based on our current save game. So let's unhook this. Let's go ahead and we're going to cut that. We're going to make this into a function. We're going to paste it into here. Okay, and we are going to call our new function, well, technically it's not called toggle sound, so this would be the event when we are enabling the sound. So, you know what? Let's call this load settings, because technically this is going to be loading the settings, and we'll go ahead and we'll put another section here for the music, so we might as well do that. So here we'll do this, and what we're going to do here is we're going to do another if. This one we want to get music. See, we might as well do everything all at once, and we'll do an if. Now this one I know we can shove them both into, because it's just an execute node. Like that. That's a little bit ugly. Let's clean that up. Something like that. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, after we've gone ahead and we've set the sound on or off, we are going to do the exact same thing for music. So we'll set music volume, and if our music's turned on, obviously we want music to be 1. Duplicate the node, and we'll set our music to be 0. And clean that up. And it's still ugly. Yeah, it's close enough. There we go. So now the nice thing is we can just copy this whole thing, paste it down here. Now this is a lot of unnecessarily duplicated code. You could do a sequence node to clean this up. You could reuse this right here, cast it locally now that we have a function. You could take this 2 sections right here, save the game state into a variable, and then you only have 1 variable you're going to have to plug into your target, for example. But I think for our purposes, this will work. I mean, it's not too ugly. And this is our function. And it's called load settings, so it should be pretty simple. We'll comment this out really quickly. Load an existing game save. And, you know, is this an existing save? And if it is an existing save, you go to here, you know, is sound enabled. That's one thing I learned and actually works fairly well. When you're using blueprints and you're going to use comments, name the comments basically as if someone was walking through it. So for example, if I was looking at this, load game from slot. Okay, well, if you didn't know what this did, what's the comment say? Well, what we're doing is we're loading an existing game save. Here, you know, for example, this would be save reference to game save. And then what do we do next? Well, instead of if true do this, if false do that, just use it as a question. What does this branch do? Well, the branch is asking, is this an existing save? True or false? Well, that's easy to understand. Is sound enabled? True or false? And then we can set the volume here. Down here, same thing. Is music enabled? And there we go. And then you do the same thing down at this bottom branch. I'll clean that up when we are off video. But if you were to simply be someone reading through this, those 5 comments read in order would let you know exactly what this does. So we've gone ahead and then we have our load settings working. We should probably actually load our settings. So let's find our begin play. And let's go ahead and call load settings. And we'll put this over here, comment this, and load our settings from the game save. And there we go. Now we actually have our settings loading up when we begin play. So in theory, if we have no save game, it's going to have sound enabled because that's what we told it to be for default. If we have a game save, it's going to load up the existing values and set them up. So we still technically haven't done our toggle sound because that was highly amusing. So I'm going to make another function for this, and we're going to make another function called toggle the sound. As you notice, I iterate through this a lot as I figure out what I want to do. And since I'm trying to keep the most part, anything you pass through as calling the interface, calling the function, it makes sense to do it for this one. So toggle the sound will toggle the sound. Now the nice thing is we already have this whole thing in here. We can steal most of it. So let's see. Whoa, good job moving over. Here we go. So let's see what we can steal. Now we're not going to need to load the save game from the slot. We can load the save game from the slot, but we don't need to. Let's not. Let's go ahead and use our existing settings for sound and music volume. Let's go ahead and not load the save game from the slot and not set a save game reference. We don't need this. And this is our existing save. Do we need this? We're probably not going to need... Actually, I take that back. In order to use save games, you need... Whoops, let's put that back to where it was. In order to use a save game, you're actually going to need a save game object, because what we need to do after we've toggled the sound is we need to resave the save game object to make sure it's valid next time we play. So I take that back. We do need to load an existing. We do need a reference. We do need to see if there's an existing one. Our difference here is we are going to get our save game, get our sound enabled, and we're actually going to set our sound enabled. So we're not actually going to do this. What we need to do is, let's move this out of the way. What we need to do is check to see if our sound is enabled based on, actually no, we don't even need to do that. We just set the sound volume, so we don't need this. What we need to do is cast as our save game, and then we're going to set sound enabled right here. And then sound enabled. So here's a good question. So by setting sound enabled on and off, all we're technically doing is changing our volume to 0 and 1. If we were to change it where we're saving the sound volume and we're loading the sound volume, technically the toggle would just take the existing one and flip it. See, this is reiterating. I don't want to reiterate right now. What I might do if I had more time, for example, was to completely go back into my game save, change these into the floats directly instead of the booleans. Because, and actually, you know what, the smarter thing to do would have been to put the volumes in here as well, and assumed we were going to have a volume slider. But, you know what, we're going to leave it like this. It's all about iterating. So, set sound enabled. We need to know if this is supposed to be true or false. And we need to determine if it's true or false. So this is actually in the wrong spot. This should be up here for now, based on this. So we don't actually set our sound volume. What we're going to do is we're going to get our sound volume. You know what? And why don't we just do this? Shoot, why not? Oh, I can't switch on int because it's not a 0. So, well, I guess we're going to just do a couple ifs. Let's see, option 0, option 1, return, yeah, see, that's not going to work. So what we're going to do, we'll do an equal, and if we're equal to a 1, we're going to, oh, you know what, that'll work. We only need to do one of those. Okay, so we'll pull this back down here, because it's either going to be true or false. So if it's 1, then we're going to set this to true. Okay, that'll work. See, just simply doing it this way works as well. So we'll pull this down here, pull this down here, reorganize this into here, reorganize this into here, and then we will go ahead and push this back over. And if I read through this properly, it should work. So, is our sound volume 1? Do we currently have sound set? If it is, then we want to set the sound enabled. If it's not, then we want to set our sound to disabled. Now, the problem with this is we're supposed to be toggling, so this is technically backwards. So we will just simply put a not in there. So this should flip it based on what we have. And that'll set our sound volume, enabled or disabled. And now we need to actually flip our actual volume value, which was over here, which of course I already deleted. So we'll put this in here, we'll put this in here, and then we'll go ahead and set this back to here. Move this over. So it looks like what I should have done is not deleted most of that and just added in this small section here. Let's walk through and see if that worked. So sound volume. If the sound volume is currently equal to 1, as in we have sound, flip it. So true sound becomes false sound. Set sound enabled to false. So that means we don't have sound. This is false. Set our volume to 0. Okay, it should work. Our little Flippy McFlipperson here should work. So this one creates our save object, goes into here. This is what we're going to go ahead and delete. So we have our save game reference. We can go ahead and delete this part. Drag this over. Keep in mind, I have not finished checking the first part yet, so I don't actually know if even that's right, but that's what we're going to find out in a second. Okay. So for this one, we want this. It's supposed to be music enabled. Setting music enabled. This should toggle our music enabled. This should be our branch on here. This should be true or false over here. So we can drag this back over, assuming I can click. There we go. So I can go ahead and drag this back over like that. Okay. So these should all be the same now. They should all be good. This is now going to toggle our volumes on and off, and then we can all connect this up to one of them. So what we need to do is we need to save game to slot, and our slot name is save game. Our save game object is going to be our save game reference object, and what we need to do is drag this into here, make a reroute node, drag this into here. Drag this into here, reroute node, oh, seriously, and reroute node. There we go. And that's ugly as all get, but it could be cleaned up even further if we wanted to, but for the most part, that's going to be close enough. Okay, so that should finish off. It should take our existing save game reference, which should now have our adjusted values right here. It should adjust our volumes, and it should save it back out. Okay, so toggle the sound should work properly now. Let's find out. You know, the worst thing we can do, oh, actually we can't find out, simply due to the fact that we don't have the way to toggle the sound yet. So how can we quickly test this? Well, you know, don't need to quickly test it. Let's just play with our user interface. That should be even faster. So we have our player HUD here, which is the wrong one. Let's close our extra stuff. We don't need these. In-game menu. So let's take a button, and where are we going to put our in-game menu? We're going to put it, we'll put it above the spacer. Actually, you know what? We're going to put a button right here in between the spacer, and then we're going to copy that spacer. And it goes in here, sorry. Right there, we'll put the spacer above the other button. And there we go. Now we got a button in the middle of nowhere. We'll set our button up to fill center. We'll slap some text on there. And you know what? I'm just going to do this lazily and call this toggle sound. Let's make sure it's black text. Whoops, that's a shadow. That doesn't work. Black text. Like that. And you know what? I need some sort of a padding around it. There we go. Give it a little bit bigger button. There we go. Toggle sound. Boom. Simple. Don't have to make it this very hard. Let's make sure we name this to button sound So it's cleaner. Go into our graph, button sound, bind an event to on click. Oops, we don't drag off. We are going to get our game. Actually, we don't even need to, yeah, we're calling the interface. So get in game state, and then we're going to call the toggle sound, which is a message to our game state. Since we are using interface, we don't need to cast. We don't need to worry about anything funky. We are just sending a interface message to, and here's one of the nice things about doing this via the game state. Doing this via the game state, since we're toggling the sound like this through a message, if the game state doesn't have the option to toggle sound on or off, for whatever reason, maybe we're using a different game state or we don't have it implemented yet, nothing's going to happen. It's going to send it there, and there's nothing that's going to answer it, and we're not going to have to worry about an error or an unimplemented function or anything like that. Just nothing's going to happen. So, in theory, this may work. I have no clue, so let's find out. So, I've been messing with a different version of my recording software. The sound hopefully should not be too annoying over the voice recording. So you should have sound that you can hear as I'm doing this. Let's pull up my menu. Let's toggle the sound. Let's pull up the menu again. Continue. And I am firing, and I think I'm hearing the sound still. It looks like it's coming through on the desktop audio. And that should not be, oh, well, that was extremely silly of me. So I believe toggle sound's working, but like I said before, maybe hopefully someone caught this, we're doing this the wrong way. And by doing it the wrong way, we're going to have to go in and add this to every single thing that plays sound. So since we know we can test with the laser cue, let's go ahead and add that to our laser sound. Let's find our laser sound. This is going to be more fun. Let's see. Play sound 2D laser cue. Okay. And that is one advantage of having a proper sound manager and a proper sound system in place. You actually know where everything's at as well. So let's try this again, shall we? Let's see what happens now if we fire with our sound off. So I'm hearing sound. I'm not happy about that, but I'm hearing sound. Toggle the sound, hit play or continue, and I have no sound, I hope. I'm seeing desktop audio on my recorder. I'm going to go ahead and quickly unmute this, so hopefully you don't die. Oh, there's the bing bong sounds. Let's wait for that to stop. Okay. Oh, bing bongs are still going. What the heck? Oh my gosh, so many bing bongs. Customers need so much help. Okay. I'm not hearing firing. Pulling up my sound. Continue. I hear firing. Toggle sound. Continue. I don't hear firing. Okay. So it worked. All right. So our implementation worked. We just have to do the dirty work of actually making all of the sounds adhere to that. Now, I think there was a problem. No, never mind. It's fixed. If you notice, I came into the game. I'm firing. You should be hearing no sounds from the firing itself. So the saving is working. So loading from a save is working. Toggling the sound is working. We would just need to go in, and I'm not going to do this on video since we're approaching 40 minutes at this point. But we've covered the basics on adding a toggle for sound. Unfortunately, we just didn't add the music in yet. I'm gonna go ahead and run this up to like an hour, and I'll add in the music. But in terms of what we're still missing, this right here, getting the game state, casting to our custom game state, and getting the current sound volume will need to be put in between every single cue that plays the sound, because we did this the wrong way. We didn't use our global design document. We didn't design anything when we started this. I just started throwing crap together and put sound in at the last second, and then quickly threw this in. Had no intention of adding in sound or anything like that. So as you can see, I mean, we only took about half an hour. We put in the ability to toggle sounds, saving and loading. So let's get music working. So for music, since I'm still trying to follow this same basic plan of using the game state, my idea was to use the game state to handle the music itself. As in, you toggle the music like we just did, or well, we toggle the music the same way we toggle the sound with the button, and the music would turn on and off. Now, the music isn't really attached to anything in the game, so we would need something to handle music. So my idea was to have a music manager or an audio manager as just a generic actor that had an audio component on it that played music. Well, someone pointed out to me, and this is something I did not know and I thought was pretty awesome. Game states, even though they're not in the game itself, they're not something you add in, you can still add components to them. So if we were to add an audio component, assuming I can find audio, to our game state, we can actually use the game state to play the music. And since the music is something that's part of the interface, it's supposed to be going on at all times, it seems like it would be a good place to put it. So we're going to go ahead and try that. I haven't tried it before. Let's see if it works. So let's cheat. Let's go with toggle the sound and let's duplicate it. And let's call that toggle the music. And you know what's funny? I just realized that in here, we really don't need this extra section for music, because we're only supposed to be working with the sound. So let's nuke that, move this back over here, hook up our sound. And the nice thing is I'm going to go ahead and just steal that just the music part out of the function over here for toggle music. So toggle the music should work the same as toggle the sound, except we are going to stop any current music that's playing or start any music that's currently playing in addition to what we're doing now. So let's go in here, and what we need to do is, whoops, I think I broke this part. Yes, because here's, you know what, I should have removed that. Did I break something here? Wow, did I completely mess up the beginning part here now that I'm looking through this? No, okay, so I have sound and music when I'm loading settings. Toggle the sound should only be toggle the sound, except I'm doing music enabled right there. Well, that was me breaking something stupid. So, okay. This is why we read through code as best as possible and see what we broke. So I was actually reading the music enabled variable if we didn't have a valid save object in order to initially set if the sound was enabled or not. So, okay, so, and that would explain one of the small bugs I saw. So now if we have a valid object, sound should work. If we don't have a valid object, sound should work as well, because it's going to go ahead and toggle it from a regular one. Toggling sound, toggling sound. Let me move this to the side, gives a little bit more screen space. There we go. And then saving the game. And of course this one's wrong too. Wow. Okay. And this is another bug. So if you ever run across this bug where you can't uncapitalize something like that, just name it differently completely, like save game 2. And then you can go back in and name it properly, save game. And it is important that your save games are named identical, because they are strings, not names. Something you could do is set up a variable for each of your save game names to make it less idiot proof, as you just noticed the idiot messed it up. So let's go into load settings. Make sure I didn't screw this one up. Save game. We are loading the sound. We are loading the music. We are loading the sound. We are loading the music. Okay, so load settings is fine. Toggling the sound should now be fine. So let's fix toggle the music. So toggle the music should be the same as toggle the sound, except we're going to want it to just be that. Which is funny because now I can delete that, move this over. I've actually technically have this half working and half broken. Move this over here. And now, technically, the music enabled one. Oh, see, and look, we've even got sound. Oh my gosh, wow. I totally messed that up when I did this. So this needs to be gone. This needs to be gone. This needs to be gone. This needs to still be there, actually. So we'll copy paste our friend. Okay, so what we are doing is simply changing it from toggling the sound to toggling the music. And we are doing that by our music volume comparison here and here, which I'm having a really tough time dragging and dropping. There we go. Okay, so, and this one is still not set up properly. There we go. So now let's try this again. Is this an existing save? Is our music value equal to 1? Flip it with the not and use our save reference for casting. And then we'll go ahead and set our new, see, here's a problem. These are incorrect. We need to set our music volume. So we'll go ahead and copy this a few times. Like that. And it may seem weird. I don't know how many other developers do this, but especially if you're by yourself, if you talk through something, you can usually figure out where you went wrong or spot bugs easier than if you're just staring at it, wondering why it's not working. Which is one thing I do like about blueprints, is they're visually very easy to follow, especially since you have these execute wires. And they're really easy to read since they're not, you know, you don't have a 200 character line where you're casting a pointer to an array to etc. etc. You're reading music volume variable. Is it equal to 1? Well, now we want the not version and flip it. And we're going to set it to the flipped version. And now we're going to check these. And we're going to walk. And we're going to etc. etc. So as you saw, as I was walking through there, I knew I needed to set the music volume. I read sound. And rather than having a mistake, I fixed it. So, in theory, toggling the music should be working now. Copy paste. Try to keep things as loose as possible. I know you're not supposed to copy paste, but it worked great if you fix your bugs like you just saw. So toggling the music. So toggle the music. There we go. Bam. Toggle music. We still don't have music playing. We still don't have it starting up in the beginning. We don't have any of that stuff, but we have the basic. We have the framework set up. So let me jump back into my user interface and set that up so that way we actually have a button working. So we have our button for toggle sound. Let's go ahead and copy our button out and paste it. Drag it under here for a toggle sound. We'll call this one toggle music. And we will go ahead and we'll name our button music. And let's find another spacer. Drop it between our two buttons. And hopefully I did that right. There we go. And let's set a little bit of vertical space in there. Like, well, let's go with 20. And there we go. Now they're not, you know, on top of each other. Go into our graph. Toggle music. Click event. And hopefully this one should be real easy to figure out. What we're going to do is basically the exact same thing we did before. Get our game state. And we're going to toggle music through the message interface. Now, if you had time, and the proper way to do this would be to, when you're toggling this as well, go ahead and toggle the text. Change it where it says sound on, sound off, music on, music off. It would be more professional. But for our example, we're not professional, we're getting it done. So we have toggle music. So toggle music, we'll call this, and this should toggle the music. So let's start off, first of all, we need music to be playing to toggle. Let's go to our game state. Let's find our begin play event, and we have our load settings. So this is our game state, which is loaded up for the game itself. Now, when do we want music playing? Would be a good question here. Do we want it when we load our settings, or do we want it when the game starts? So I'm thinking when the map starts, when the mall map starts, we'll have our music playing if it's appropriate. So how do we do that? Well, we have our mall map here, and we have our level blueprint. And our level blueprint is called whenever this level loads up. we need to call our game state and turn. So why don't we just do that? We'll just do this really simple. We have interfaces. That's what they're for. We'll do a game state interface. We'll make a new one. This is an example of kind of thinking ahead. Maybe we could change toggle music to also have a Boolean. And if you have the Boolean set, see, it adds more confusion to someone else who may be reading it. So let's leave toggle music, toggle sound to load. Let's just have a new function called play music. Simple as that. We'll just have it called play music. And we'll go back into our game state and save. We'll make a new function called play music. Well, event, sorry. New event called can't spell. And we'll make this really simple. We'll call this another function here called play the music. If you notice, I try to keep things separate. So you have play music, which is the interface event. And then I have play the music, which is what we're going to call. You might want to try renaming them a little bit better. Like maybe call this one play music event, or play music interface, or play music IE, or something like that. So anyways, play the music. So this one should be simple. We'll get our audio. We'll tell it to play a sound attached to itself. What sound do we want? Oh, crud, we have no music. Well, let's take care of that. So we'll go into our audio, and we'll make a new one called music. I think we're going to make this over an hour. Shoot. Okay, let's go and import my sound that I already have set up for this, which I've appropriately called mall music. We'll let this go in. Now I have a feeling the mall music's going to be too loud, so let me drop this down. Whoops. And find our volume. Let's drop it down to 0.5, which is what I turned most of my volumes down to. And actually I have a feeling it's going to be even too loud for that, so we'll adjust it as needed. So here's our game state. Here's this. Let's find our mall music. And then one thing you could do is you could use a queue with different mall music if you had a bigger game where you want different music playing. Now, one thing we are going to want to do, and this is very important, is we are going to want to promote this to a variable. And not a local variable, but a variable. And this is going to be our music. Let's just call it music. Oh, music ref would have been better. Let's call it music ref. And let's horribly spell. There we go. So we have our music reference because we want to be able to stop this later if we need to. So play music spawns the sound attached, which is automatically going to play. Let's go and drop this down again just to make sure it's low enough. I don't want to kill anybody with the sound. And we're going to go ahead and play that when we do play music. So that's what play music does. Pretty simple. So let's say in our map, what we're going to want to do is begin play. Once the map is starting, we're going to get our game state. And hopefully you can figure out what we're going to do. We're going to tell it to play the music using an interface message. And the nice thing again, using an interface message, if we don't have music enabled or set up in our game state, nothing will happen. So that's it. So now in theory, when the map starts, we should have music. I have no idea what's going to happen. Let's find out. I see sound on my desktop audio. I'm assuming music's playing. I can't unfortunately hear it myself because then it's going to start causing issues. But as soon as the customers are finishing needing assistance, I'm seeing something on my stream. It looks like I have music playing. I'm going to quickly unmute this and hope I don't kill everybody with the sound after this stops. Yep, okay, I hear sound. So we have music playing. Now, let's get our toggling working. So the whole point of toggling is to turn the music on or off. Now, I would think the appropriate place to take care of that would be after here. We've gone ahead and we've toggled it. So based on if the music is on or off, we should... See, with music volume, I'm going to go ahead and leave this in. If I was doing this a different way... Okay. since we're not using music volume in the traditional way, where it's a 0 to 1 scale where they can actually adjust it, and we're just kind of using it to turn on or off, we're doing it the incorrect way, or a rather poor way. With the music, since there's only one music source and we only have to worry about it in one place, we can control what we do with it. We technically don't need the music volume 0 or 1. We can just turn it on or off. Now, assuming I wanted to add a slider in later, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this as is because it makes it easier to modify later. And I'm just going to add on and turn on and off the music. So what we do is take our music reference and we are going to stop it if the volume is set to 0. So what this does when we toggle is this will stop our music if we are toggling our music to 0. Now we need to play our music if our music is set to 1. We've already got this set up to play music, so this should be pretty simple. We'll just do play music like that. And of course I have things on top of each other, so let's move that up a little bit, move this down a little bit, move this one over, move this back, and there we go. Now in theory, we added these 3 little notes here. We go ahead and splice these suckers into here like this. Wow. This could use some much needed code cleanup, blueprint rewiring, but you know, I'll do that after off video. So in theory here, we should stop the music if we're setting our music to 0, our volume, and we should start the music if it's set to 1. One small issue we have is during our play the music, we're not actually checking to see if we should be playing the music. So actually, let's steal some more code. This is just one of those stupid fake things that we have to do because, we're setting it right here. This is one of those things we have to do because we're not doing it the right way. If you notice, there's a lot of extra code involved when you do something the wrong way. You actually have to take into account all the other variables, all the other things that may happen just simply because you didn't think about doing it the right way. So what we're going to do just to double check here is, actually no, because see in here we don't actually save. I'm going to do this easy way. If our music volume is currently 1, that means our music volume is yes. We're going to go ahead and play our sound. If our music volume is 0, guess what we do? Well, we do nothing. We're not going to do anything at all. Okay. So, now we should be good. Let's go ahead and start up the game again. I am seeing what looks like no music.
Bing bong.
I'm seeing someone talking.
Customers need assistance on floor 1.
And no one's talking again. And I can't see my lasers. If we pull up this and we toggle the music and we continue,
Bing
it looks like I have music. I
Bing
think I have someone
bong.
talking right now.
Customers
Yep,
need
bing bong, bing
assistance
bong.
on floor 2.
He should stop talking.
Bing
And then
bong. Bing bong. Customers
I
need
think I have
assistance
music.
on floor
Okay, well, let me go ahead and unmute this before hopefully no one gets hurt. Oh, music. Toggle music. Music off. Toggle music. Music on. All right. There we go. Toggling the music on and off. One thing that's kind of cool, doing it this way, using this, once you start playing the sound, the stopping and the playing, if you notice on here, it's not going to restart it necessarily from the beginning. It may restart it from where you last out based on you starting and stopping. So you can always have the music pause, basically, instead of restarting from scratch. So we are really close to an hour here. I think I went ahead and did everything I wanted to do for that. If I can pull it up. There we go. Add music. Add the music loop to the game state. And you can toggle it in the options. So that's done. If I can find my font button. Boom. Strike through. Add toggle to options for sound the wrong way. Oh, we definitely did that the wrong way. Done. Boom. There we go. So I'm going to use this to wrap up our first video. If I run into any issues when I comment the code, we will cover it in the next video. Tomorrow, or the next video technically, we're going to add in the next 3 things. We are going to finish this up. We're going to knock this out in 2 videos, just like that. So, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below.